The mansion was silent, except for the beeping machines and hushed whispers of 20 of the world's finest doctors. They had flown in from across the globe, summoned by urgency and money, to save a man whose fortune could move nations. Billionaire Richard Alcott lay pale on a sprawling bed, his face drained of color, his body weakened beyond recognition. His family stood helpless at the edge of the room, their eyes darting from one specialist to the next. Yet, despite all the brilliance gathered there, no one had an answer. For weeks, Richard's condition had worsened. He had seen cardiologists, neurologists, immunologists. They tested, scanned, prescribed, adjusted, and argued. But the great man continued to fade, as though life itself was slipping quietly from him. In the shadows of the room, almost unnoticed, stood Mary Thompson, the housekeeper's. She had worked for Richard for 15 years, dusting his bookshelves, polishing his awards, carrying trays into his study. She was invisible to the family, invisible to the guests, yet she had seen more than anyone. She had seen the lonely meals, the late nights, the way his smile grew smaller each year despite his growing wealth. And now she saw something the doctors didn't. As the doctors argued over test results, Mary noticed Richard's trembling hand reaching weakly toward the glass of water by his bed. He barely touched it before pulling back. She frowned. Something stirred in her memory. Weeks earlier, she had seen him struggle with the same gesture, coughing after even the smallest sip. He always waved it off, and no one else paid attention. But Mary did. She waited until the doctors stepped out to consult in private, leaving only the billionaire's daughter sitting anxiously at his side. Mary approached, hesitant, but driven by something stronger than fear. "Ma'am," she said softly, "forgive me, but I think Mr. Alcott might not be able to swallow properly." The daughter blinked, startled. "What?" "I've noticed it." Mary continued, her voice trembling. "He tries to drink but pulls away. He coughs sometimes after he eats. It could be his throat. Maybe the food or drink isn't going down right." The daughter's eyes widened. She called the doctors back immediately. At first, they dismissed the idea. How could a housekeeper know what they, with years of training, had overlooked? But then, reluctantly, they examined his throat more closely. Tests confirmed it. Richard had developed a rare swallowing disorder. Food and liquid had been seeping into his lungs, slowly poisoning his body with infection. The room erupted in activity. New treatments were started, interventions that finally addressed the true problem. For the first time in weeks, there was hope. Richard's recovery was slow, but steady. Days later, when he was strong enough to speak, he asked for Mary. She came nervously, wiping her hands on her apron, unsure if she would be scolded for speaking out of turn. But instead, Richard reached for her hand, his voice hoarse, but filled with something she had never heard in him before: gratitude. "They had 20 doctors," he whispered, "and yet it was you who saved my life." Tears filled her eyes. She shook her head. "I only said what I saw, sir." But Richard knew it was more than that. It wasn't just observation. It was care. It was attention. It was the kind of humanity that no amount of money could buy, and yet the very thing that had saved him when all else failed. And in that quiet moment, billionaire and housekeeper sat side by side, not as master and servant, not as rich and poor, but as two souls connected by something far greater than wealth or science: compassion.